He walked into the restaurant expecting a quiet dinner, unaware that in just a few minutes he would witness a moment that would change his life forever. Across the room, his powerful, beautiful girlfriend was smiling as a young waitress stood frozen in humiliation, her job being taken away not for a mistake, but for amusement. No shouting, no chaos, just quiet cruelty hidden behind luxury and confidence. The billionaire watched in silence, his heart tightening as he realized the woman he loved enjoyed breaking someone who could not fight back. That night, he didn't argue, he didn't warn anyone, and he didn't stop it, because what he planned next would expose the truth, shatter false power, and turn one cruel moment into a lesson the world would never forget.
Power does not always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it reveals its true face in a quiet moment, in a small corner of the world where someone believes no one important is watching. On an ordinary evening, wrapped in soft golden light, in a luxury restaurant where crystal glasses shimmered and polite smiles were part of the uniform, a single cruel act set off a chain of events no one could have imagined. The kind of moment that separates who people pretend to be from who they truly are. Ethan Blackwell had built his life on precision. Every decision, every risk, every deal was calculated, controlled, and measured. As one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the country, he had learned to read people like balance sheets. He believed success revealed character, but that belief would be challenged in ways that shook him to his core. That evening, Ethan entered the restaurant without announcement, without cameras, without the entourage people expected. He wanted silence. He wanted normalcy. He wanted to see the world without bending it by his presence. The restaurant was one he technically owned, though he rarely visited. It was managed by layers of executives, each reporting numbers and profits, never stories or faces. The place smelled of expensive wine, fresh bread, and ambition. Staff moved carefully, almost invisibly, trained to serve wealth with grace. Ethan sat at a corner table, observing, unseen, unnoticed, watching how people behaved when they believed power belonged to them. Across the room, his girlfriend, Vanessa, radiated confidence and entitlement. She had entered the relationship like she entered every space in her life, assuming she belonged at the center of it. Beautiful, polished, admired, and deeply convinced that the world existed to accommodate her moods. To many, she looked perfect beside him, elegant, ambitious, socially flawless. Ethan believed, or perhaps wanted to believe, that her sharp edges were misunderstood strength. But then it happened. A young waitress, barely holding herself together after a long shift, made a small mistake. Nothing dramatic, a delayed order, the kind of human error that happens thousands of times a day in restaurants everywhere. Her shoulders were tense, her eyes tired, her uniform slightly worn from overuse. She apologized with sincerity written all over her face. Vanessa did not see sincerity. She saw opportunity. What followed was not loud, it was not explosive, it was cold, calculated, entertainment disguised as authority. Vanessa decided to make an example of the girl, not because it mattered, but because she could. The firing was not about performance, it was about power. It was about proving to herself and anyone watching that she was untouchable. The waitress stood frozen, humiliation washing over her as quietly as tears she refused to let fall. Ethan watched everything. He felt something shift inside him, something deep and uncomfortable. This was not business. This was not ambition. This was cruelty for pleasure, the kind of cruelty that needed no reason. He did not intervene immediately. He observed. He listened. He saw how managers complied, how fear spread silently, how dignity was stripped in seconds. In that moment, Ethan realized he had been blind. Before continuing this story, take a second and ask yourself something important. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in standing up for people who cannot defend themselves, please like this video, share it with others, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach people who need them. The waitress left through the back door, holding her bag like it was the last piece of her life she could protect. Ethan watched her disappear into the night, unaware that her quiet suffering had just awakened something fierce in him. He stayed seated, calm on the surface, but inside, everything was unraveling. The woman he loved had shown him a truth he could not ignore. That night, Ethan did not confront Vanessa. He did not argue. He did not raise his voice. Instead, he began to plan. Because when a man who built empires decides to correct injustice, he does it not impulsively, he does it thoroughly. What Vanessa thought was a harmless display of authority would soon become the moment her entire world began to collapse.
The days that followed were heavy with unspoken tension. Vanessa moved through her life with confidence intact, laughing at social events, attending meetings, enjoying luxury without a hint of remorse. To her, the waitress was already forgotten, filed away as irrelevant. Ethan, however, carried the memory like a wound that refused to close. He began to see patterns he had once ignored, the subtle disrespect toward staff, the dismissive comments, the enjoyment she seemed to take in dominance. Ethan quietly requested reports, not financial ones, but human ones, staff turnover, complaints, anonymous feedback. What he found disturbed him deeply. The restaurant and others connected to Vanessa's influence had become environments of fear. Good workers leaving, talented people broken down, lives disrupted for entertainment. Meanwhile, Ethan searched for the waitress. It took time. Records were incomplete, names blurred together in systems that never expected someone to care. But eventually he found her. She was living in a small apartment, struggling to make ends meet, caring for a sick parent, her confidence shaken but not destroyed. She had not told her family the real reason she lost her job. Shame had a way of silencing people who did nothing wrong. Ethan did not arrive as a billionaire. He arrived as a listener. He learned her story, her dreams, her exhaustion. He learned that she worked double shifts to pay medical bills, that the job had been her lifeline, not a hobby. And in learning her truth, he confronted his own responsibility. His wealth, his silence, his distance had allowed this cruelty to exist. At the same time, Vanessa began to sense change. Ethan was distant, controlled, observing her the way he once observed markets before pulling out. She mistook his silence for distraction, his calm for weakness. She did not realize she was being measured against something far greater than status or beauty. She was being measured against character. Ethan began restructuring quietly. Policies were rewritten, management was replaced, anonymous reporting systems were installed, training programs focused on dignity, not obedience. But he was not finished. Then came the public moment. At a high-profile charity event attended by investors, influencers, and executives, Ethan took the stage. The room expected announcements about expansion, profits, innovation. Instead, he spoke about responsibility, about power, about how success means nothing if it crushes others beneath it. His words were calm but sharp, like a mirror no one wanted to look into. He announced a new foundation supporting workers wrongfully terminated. He announced an internal investigation across all his businesses. And then, without naming names, he described the incident, the firing, the cruelty, the laughter disguised as authority. Vanessa felt the room shift.
People looked at her differently. Whispers spread. Her confidence cracked for the first time. Ethan did not look at her. He did not need to. The truth was already doing the work. That night, he ended the relationship privately, decisively, without drama. Not out of revenge, but clarity. He explained that love without compassion was not love at all, that power without empathy was dangerous, and that he could not build a future with someone who found joy in another person's pain. Vanessa lost more than a relationship. She lost access, influence, protection. The world she had leaned on began to pull away. Meanwhile, the waitress received something unexpected, not just her job back, but an opportunity, education support, stability, respect. Ethan did not turn her into a symbol. He gave her something far more powerful: choice.
Time passed, and the story did not fade. It grew. The waitress, once silenced by fear, slowly rebuilt her life. With support and education, she moved into management, then advocacy, becoming someone who protected others from the humiliation she once endured. She carried empathy into every space she entered, proving that pain can either harden a person or deepen them. Ethan changed too. He became more present, more human, less hidden behind numbers and success. He visited his businesses unannounced, not to intimidate, but to understand. He listened more than he spoke, and in doing so, he discovered something wealth had never given him before: purpose. Vanessa faded from headlines, from influence, from relevance, not because Ethan destroyed her, but because without power to wield over others, she had nothing to stand on. The world moved on, as it always does. Years later, the restaurant still stood, but it felt different. Laughter was genuine, staff stayed, respect replaced fear. A small plaque near the entrance read a simple message about dignity and humanity. Most customers never noticed it, but those who needed it always did. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think differently about power, kindness, or the choices we make when no one is watching, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep meaningful stories alive. And before this story ends, we ask you one special thing. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. Because sometimes the most amazing thing a person can do after witnessing cruelty is not revenge, but transformation. And in choosing kindness, one man changed more lives than he ever did with money alone.